back to Fantasy Scope, where we dive into the latest news, theories, and deep dive breakdowns across fantasy entertainment. Best-selling author Jenna Moreci announced that her best-selling series, the Savior series, will be getting brand new book covers. The news dropped before any concrete updates on the Savior's Army. The sudden rebrand has ignited speculation that the next book won't stay confined to Thesson, that it could break open the map entirely, revealing new lands and exposing Bronte's web of power as something far larger than just a palace coup. We are breaking down the timing, the visuals, and every narrative breadcrumb to see just how far beyond Thesson this story might reach. What's next for the realm's future? And if Bronte's unseen war machine is already in motion. Quick disclaimer before we dive in. Nothing here is official, just my own research and opinions. Some of this might spoil too much for you, so consider this your heads up. And as always, interpretations vary, so drop your theories in the comments. Half the fun is hearing your take. The rebrand arrived before any confirmed publishing details for the Savior's Army, the third edition to the Savior series, which is rare but deliberate. That kind of early move feels like a signal, a way to prep readers for the total change before the next announcement drops. It keeps the world of Thesson fresh in people's minds, reminding readers, oh right, that story isn't over yet, while easing them into the new color palette and new expectations. Then there's the visual shift. The original covers framed each story through one lens, one protagonist's experiences. Tobias and Champion, and Leia and Sister. Each book felt intimate, centered on a single character's survival inside an isolated system. But this rebrand may be the author's way of saying those were only the preludes, the prologue. Stories that set the stage for something larger. Whether the Savior's Army turns out to be a massive force or something smaller and more symbolic, like Dumbledore's army, it represents an escalation. It calls for broader visual identity. A look that can carry bigger themes, bigger stakes, in an entire world in conflict. And narratively, it fits. With every chapter of The Savior's Sister, Leia uncovered deeper corruption. Not one villain, but a network so widespread it touched every corner of Thesson's power structure. If corruption runs that deep, then civil war doesn't feel far-fetched. It feels inevitable. Put together, the early rebrand could be doing more than refreshing the shelf. It might be quietly preparing readers for a story that leaves the palace walls behind, trades personal survival for political upheaval, and finally shows us what happens when the rot at the center of Thesson spreads across the realm. If the rebrand is hinting that the story will move beyond Thesson, then the next logical question is, what's actually out there? So far, we've only seen one civilization, a kingdom that survives through the Savior's divine energy. Every field, every heartbeat relies on that one power source. But what happens when the story steps outside that system? What if other cultures have their own way of sustaining life? Their own gods? Their own saviors? Or maybe something far more dangerous? The title, The Savior's Army, practically begs that question. An army implies opposition. Armies need enemies, allies, borders worth fighting over. If the story is moving into a wider world, we might be about to learn that Thesson's miracle isn't unique, that there are rival nations with their own magic, their own agendas, and maybe even their own versions of a savior. That shift would completely change the tone of the series. Up to now, it's been about internal corruption, power abuse from within the palace walls. But introducing other power systems opens the door to ideological conflict. Faith versus faith, magic versus science, monarchy versus rebellion. It's the kind of escalation that transforms a dark romantasy into a full-scale epic fantasy. And thematically, it tracks. If Thesson's corruption has been rotting from the inside, maybe the cure or the final infection comes from beyond its borders. Whether the Savior's Army is marching towards conquest or discovery, the expansion of the map could mean the expansion of power itself. The moment we step beyond Thesson, the rules may change, and so might who gets to be called the Savior. All roads in the Saber series lead back to one man, Brontes, the father, the monarch, the shadow strategist behind nearly every atrocity that shaped Theson's downfall. The Savior's sister, his coup and assassination network proved that his corruption runs deeper than politics. It's ideology. Brontes doesn't just want control. He wants to rewrite who gets to wield divine power. That's what makes the next book so intriguing. If the Savior's army really expands the map, Brontes' web might stretch far beyond the palace. Every hint so far, the assassins planted in the tournament, the quiet manipulation of nobles and priests, the secrecy around the Savior's power, suggests that he's not acting alone. Maybe he's been dealing with forces outside of Thessen all along, funding his coup through foreign allies or forbidden magic. A network like that wouldn't just destabilize the kingdom, it could ignite a civil war. So narratively, it would fit the escalation perfectly. The first two books exposed corruption within the palace. The Savior's army would show what happens when the corruption spills out, when Brontes' influence becomes a contagion infecting neighboring lands. His army might not just be soldiers, but spies or believers convinced that the Savior's power should belong to them. So basically, political smear campaigns. Which raises the biggest question yet. If Brontes has been building something larger than a coup, then what is his endgame? To destroy the Savior's line, to weaponize her power, or crown himself as a false god in a world that's only beginning to reveal how many other powers exist? However it plays out, the Savior's army looks poised to finally show us the full shape of Brontes' reach and the cost of rooting out corruption when it's no longer just a palace problem, but a worldwide one. With no official synopsis yet for the Savior's army, the next clues will come from how Jenna Moreci rolls out information and the order in which she reveals it. A formal release window or first look announcement might not be far ahead. On the narrative side, any teaser or even hints at new geography, foreign influence, or the word war in any context could be major. Even small mentions such as border unrest, alliances, the East, the West, would reinforce the idea that the story scale is expanding beyond Thessen. The visual language of the next reveal will matter too. Watch whether the designs are elegant and regal, as we get peeks of in her little bits of cover reveals. They could start incorporating signs of conflict, opposing colors, fractured symbols, banners, battle imagery. That shift alone could signal that we're stepping into the story of nations, not just individuals. We'll be keeping a close eye on Jenna's newsletter and social channels, since that's where she tends to drop her biggest updates first. This timing lines up with other major events on Jenna Moreci's calendar. It's a pretty big week for her, or big couple of weeks. Her nonfiction writing craft guide, How to Write Romantasy, releases October 21st. There will be a link for pre-order in the description if you're quick enough to catch it. It's fun to piece these worlds together as a community, so add your thoughts in the comments. What details or theories are you seeing that I missed? There's a good chance we'll be getting multiple updates from Jenna Moreci before the month is out. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any Jenna Moreci updates coming in the next few days. And I'll see you on the next one.